All right. Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's having a great Monday. Cinco de Mayo, May the 5th. As we're rolling on through the baseball season, of course, we just had some great series across the SEC this weekend. And I'm Perry White, my man Zach McKinnell, who is going to be here on the show with me just momentarily, is going to join me from FCS Football Central. Man, we're going to recap this weekend, look ahead to some series coming up, and as well as look back at some midweek games last week that took place. So, as always, man, I appreciate you guys for tuning in with On the Yard Network. You can keep up with me if you want to follow me aside from this. You can follow On the Yard Network across all social media, on X, on Instagram, right here on Facebook, as well as on our YouTube channel. Be sure to go subscribe to the On the Yard Network YouTube channel. Be sure to like and follow the Facebook page. Then you can go follow us across all the other various social media platforms that we have with On the Yard Network. And then, of course, I do the Jaguar Journal every Saturday morning, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. on 107.3 FM in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. You can keep up with the Jaguar Journal if you want to check that out and see what that's about. Of course, across all social media, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and you can subscribe to the Jaguar Journal YouTube channel also if you want to keep up. So just give you the plethora of the platforms that we're on and that we're doing. My man Blue going to join me here in a minute. Blue is the nickname we give Zach because he does has the blue blood. So be sure to go follow him on that as well. And we'll have him on just here in just a second as I bring him on. Let's see. Here you go, right here. Oh. What's
What's
going
up, man?
on? Good morning.
Good morning, man. Looking forward to talking about this weekend, man. We got a lot to talk about.
We do, man. Has this, for me with this ride we've been on covering this SEC conference play has begun, man. This has been exciting. It's given a newfound opportunity to watch a lot of these games on the weekend, man, that, otherwise most people may overlook. But this journey through this season has been pretty exciting, keeping up with these teams and watching from where we first started talking about teams compared to where we are now, looking at those same teams.
Man, I'm telling you, it's like every single week both of us feel like we have maybe a team or two figured out, and then they go out and get swept or collapse in a series or beat someone we didn't expect, man. So it's kind of it's a challenge, man, keeping up with the SEC when everybody's so good.
It is a challenge, man. And for you, what are you learning about the SEC in terms of baseball this year, keeping up with conference play?
Man, I mean, no one's safe is the takeaway here. I mean, Perry, this is tough, right? I mean, you look at the RPI right now after this weekend. The top five teams in the most recent RPI update are SEC teams,
Mm,
and then you have LSU that's also in the top 10. So that's a six out of the top 10 teams, and then you have another three teams in the top 15. On top of that, and you have another team in the top 25, and then all but two teams are in the top 41. So that should just show how deep this league is. And the only team not in the top 65 is Missouri.
yeah.
And that right now they're going through a lot, so we'll let them live. And I think they're 0-24 now in conference play. But everybody else, man, any given weekend you can be beat. And even with South Carolina, right? It's the first year for Paul Maneri. He's rebuilding that program. But you get up past South Carolina, Missouri, very the middle of the conference is only separated by what, 1 to 4 games, like Texas
It's
A&M.
tightening up,
Yeah,
isn't it?
Texas A&M, Mississippi State, Kentucky, all tied there at 10 and 14. Only 1 game behind Florida, who's only 2 games behind Ole Miss, Oklahoma, Auburn, and Bama, who's only 1 game behind Tennessee and Vandy, who's only 1 game behind LSU and Georgia. So it's just everything's tightly packed, man. It's going to be a interesting race here toward the end, man, because I think there's, man, Perry, just one bad series of you getting swept and then maybe losing the second to last series, you can go from fifth to 12th.
And what's going to be even more interesting is all teams are participating in the SEC tournament this year, and it's single game elimination. That's going to make it even more exciting when we get to that point at the rate everybody is playing. And just what if Missouri just finds his godlike ability and just runs through the whole conference during the SEC tournament.
Terry, I got a feeling me and you might be able to suit up and have a better chance of doing that than Missouri this year.
That would just be awesome. But at the same time, as we get ready to jump into this, we looked at some teams starting out SEC conference play. Let's take Texas A&M, Florida as two examples. We talked about them, and we saying, okay, there seems to be trouble in paradise. Both those programs started out conference play 0-6, but now they seem to be getting on the other side of it. We can see the competitive level of those programs have enhanced since they have gotten in conference play. And even with the struggles in conference play, these teams still remain some of the top teams in the nation when you look at what they were able to do in non-conference. But nonetheless, I think it just, what you just said, it tells the testament of the story of how tough this league is week in and week out. And let's look back at last week, Blue. Let's go do those midweek games quickly. Western Kentucky in Bowling Green, Kentucky, taking on Kentucky Wildcats. Western Kentucky gets the victory 6-4 in this one off of 14 hits, 0 errors. On the other side for the Wildcats, 9 hits, 2 errors. Shocker right here with Western Kentucky, who was a pretty good ball club themselves coming into this
Yeah,
game.
yeah. I mean, uh, these midweek games, man, are so tough to predict, Perry. Every single time we feel like we kind of got a pulse on like how to predict when we get something like this, right? That just comes out of nowhere. But I don't know if it was super shocking just because Kentucky's been so up and down, Perry. We talked last week. At one point, Kentucky looks like they can compete with almost anybody in the conference, and then they'll have like a game like this where it all kind of falls apart. And also, those 2 errors were huge, man. And Western Kentucky just got hot with the bats, and we know with baseball, man, all it takes is for a few guys in your lineup to get hot, man, and you can turn things around. Big win for Western Kentucky, and just it's a tough loss for Kentucky, man, who I think, in the conference standings is falling a little bit behind. I think this was a huge momentum shift for them, and I think this was something that they needed, especially with hindsight now, looking ahead at how this weekend went, getting swept by Mississippi State.
We look forward to now number 12, Tennessee was hosting NKU. Tennessee gets the victory 7-5 off of 10 hits, 1 error in that ball game. Vanderbilt hosting Indiana State. Vanderbilt gets the victory 5-2 in that midweek game against Indiana State. But then we see Charleston Southern taking on South Carolina. South Carolina gets the victory 5-3 versus Charleston Southern. And the big one, Lamar, who came in this game with a pretty good record overall, 36 wins on the season. They gave a tough one early on, but Texas A&M in this one pulled away 13-6 in this ball game. Texas A&M all over Lamar. I watched this Georgia game versus Kennesaw State. Early on, it looked like Kennesaw State was going to make it, a little battle. It was back and forth, but Georgia later on in that game pulled away 3 runs in the 7th inning to really seal the deal. 9-2, the Bulldogs over Kennesaw State. Mississippi State all over Memphis in the midweek game, 18-5, the final score in that one. Here's a midweek game of rivals. Number 25, Kansas, took on Missouri. 9-3 was the final in this one as the Jayhawks were able to pull out the victory over the Missouri Tigers. Then we had number 10, Auburn, taking on Samford in the midweek game. Auburn gets the victory 3-0. The game that I think LSU fans was looking, hey, Northwestern State had just run ruled them the week before, and it's like, all right, can we get back on track? Another Southland opponent. It was Southeastern who came into this game with 33 wins on the season. 15-2 the final score as the Tigers of LSU hold it down and get it done. Texas, the Longhorns hosting out of the SWAC, the Prairie View A&M Panthers, 11-2 the final in that one. How about number 23, Ole Miss taking on Austin Peay, 6-3 the final in that one. The game, Arkansas, Missouri State, of course, was canceled due to inclement weather in the area, and the same thing with Wichita State and Oklahoma. So out of those midweek games, Blue, we got out of there just one game that really turned our heads, that Western Kentucky over Kentucky.
Yeah, this was a solid midweek, man. Like, we always kind of joke that, we we always kind of lean the SEC teams here, man. They really delivered this week, and I just think that, in Missouri, Kansas is a top 25 team, man. I think we both picked Kansas there. But, outside of that
Yep.
Western Kentucky game, it was a really, really big week for the SEC.
Let's jump into the midweek game. And I want to start with the game that all eyes were on. I want to start with the very big game that started on Thursday. The number one Texas Longhorns on the road going up to Fayetteville, Arkansas to take on the Arkansas Razorbacks. Coming into this series, the Razorbacks had lost their last 3 series in SEC play, starting with Georgia, Texas A&M, and then Florida. This was going to be one, although Arkansas is still one of the better teams in the nation. You would have to have scratched your head had they lost this series and made it 4 straight losses in terms of series in this conference. And in game 1 on Thursday, the Razorbacks got it done 9-0 in convincing fashion. The Razorbacks were able to get the victory over the Longhorns off of 8 hits in this ball game, 0 errors. How about Texas on the other side? Normally can get the ball, normally can get on base, only 2 hits in this ball game, 0 errors. Then we go into game 2 on Friday. The Razorbacks handled business. 6-1 the final score in this one. The Razorbacks putting up 4 runs in the bottom of the second as they were able to hold on with 1 run in the 5th and in the bottom of the 6th. Off a 6 run in this ball game, 6 hits and as well as 1 error. On the other side for the Longhorns, 5 hits, 0 errors. The Razorbacks clinched the series 2-0. Can the Razorbacks get the sweep? And they get it done. 13-8 in game 3 off 11 hits, 0 errors for the Razorbacks. And on the other side, for the number one team in the nation, the Longhorns, 9 hits, 1 error. The Razorbacks get the complete sweep over the number one team in the nation. And it is Texas' first series loss in conference play this year and since joining the SEC. Big victory, as you use the word, massive victory for the Razorbacks over the Longhorns this weekend.
And this was huge, and it gives Arkansas a chance to potentially make a run here for the regular season SEC title. And they're only 2 games back now, and I just think this was the first time where like Texas has looked beatable in a long time. They've been playing such good baseball, man, and I think this was a huge series win, especially with how Arkansas was trending, and also too, it hurts Texas too because Perry going into this weekend, I believe they had to go 8-1, if I'm not mistaken, to tie that Vanderbilt team a few years ago with like the best SEC record in modern history or whatever, and they weren't able to get it done, and it kind of brings Texas a little bit closer to the pack here in the standings. I still think, unless we see a massive collapse here with Texas, I still think LSU and Georgia might be a little bit too far back to make a run here. But Arkansas is in striking distance now, and you talk about this, man. We always talk about Arkansas not winning the series they need to, or not, getting hot at the right time. Man, this is one of those series wins, especially a sweep, right, over Texas, where this could be a huge jump start to them and going into the postseason and finishing off the regular season, man. So I still don't really know what to make of Arkansas, man. They were trending in such the wrong direction, and they got really hot this weekend. But man, this is the team that if they're hot, then they're arguably the best team in the league, man. 40-9 overall, 17-7 in conference now, and also too, Perry, we talk about winning on the road, 7-5 on the road, one of the few teams above 500, one of the best road records in the conference, man. This is a team that is very dangerous, and this was a much needed series victory.
And I think showing this for Arkansas showed the rest of the nation, hey, this is a team that can compete for a championship. It's championship caliber. The way that they dominated Texas in this series, we have not seen any team do it this year in conference play. So that woke a lot of people up, and hopefully it woke the Razorbacks up to get them back on track after losing those 3-game series leading into this weekend. And now they get it done over Texas and defeat the Longhorns, giving them their first conference loss series of the season. You talked about the Georgia team. Let's talk about Georgia on the road up in Columbia, Missouri, taking on the University of Missouri. In game 1, Georgia gets it done 9-2 the final one. That one, Georgia off of 10 hits, 0 errors on the other side for Missouri. Although they had 2 runs, 8 hits, 0 errors in that ball game for the Tigers. Then we move on to game 2. A little bit closer. Georgia gets it done 5-2. Missouri goes up 2-0 in the bottom of the first inning, putting up 2 runs. But a big 6th inning, 4 runs in the 6th inning for the Georgia Bulldogs pretty much helped them seal the deal. 5-2 the final score. The Bulldogs in this one off of 5 hits, 0 errors. On the other side for Missouri, 4 hits, 1 error. Then we go to game 3, and the Georgia Bulldogs wrap this thing up. They got it done. 4-2 was the final score. How about Georgia putting up 2 runs in the top of the 9th, seal the deal off of 9 hits, 2 errors. And on the other side for Missouri, 5 hits, 1 error. Georgia gets the sweep. Missouri still remains winless, 0-24 in conference play after this weekend with the Bulldogs.
I mean, it was Missouri. I just, again, like I said, what was it last week? That if Georgia didn't get the sweep here, man, they were in probably trouble. Georgia was trending in the wrong direction for a little bit there, man, but they've now won 6 in a row, Perry. Rolling this sweep on the road now has helped them get above 500 on the road. That's going to have to be a trend we see continue, and they've played their way into a position where if Arkansas or LSU slips up ahead of them, they can make a run to be the second best team in the SEC. Host Super, all that kind of stuff. So Georgia's in a really, really good spot. This was a must win, man. You can't be the one team that Missouri gets because that could just be a killer for momentum. Big win for Georgia, man. That they did what they needed to do this weekend.
Big win for the Bulldogs. Again, here's an interesting matchup. Top 25, number 23 Ole Miss on the road going over to Norman, Oklahoma to take on number 21 Oklahoma. And in game one, Oklahoma gets it done. 2-0 is the final, and this one is Oklahoma able to put up 2 runs in the bottom of the fifth and hang on to seal the deal versus the Rebels of Ole Miss. Oklahoma got it done off of 3 hits, 0 errors on the other side for the Rebels of Ole Miss. Only 2 hits and 1 error. Oklahoma gets game one. Then we move over to game two. How about the Sooners getting it done again? 5-3 the final in that one. The Sooners getting it done off of 10 hits, 0 errors on the other side for Ole Miss. 10 hits, 0 errors as well for them. Oklahoma putting up 3 runs in the bottom of the first to add another 2 in the bottom of the fifth and to hold on and win this one 5-3. And then we get to game 3. Ole Miss said, you're not going to sweep us. You may win the series, but you're not going to sweep us. And the Rebels get the victory. 7-3 is the final off 11 hits for the Rebels, 0 errors. And for the Sooners, 7 hits, 2 errors. The Sooners win the series. Interesting enough, what do you think about Oklahoma in this one?
Big series win here for the Sooners, man. Because I feel like if it when you look at like the standings, and I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit later, that middle part of the conference is just so tight that 1 or 2 games like mean so much. And so to get this series was huge for them. And especially anytime you get a series at home, Perry. I mean, we've kind of talked about this. It's so hard to win on the road. When you get these big series at home, you've got to find a way to get it done. And they found a way to beat a really good Ole Miss team, a team that's been hanging around the top 25. And now Oklahoma kind of solidifies themselves right there. Auburn, Alabama, they're 1 game behind Vandy and Tennessee, worked their way into the top half of the conference. And it was a team that has done a pretty good job of winning on the road, 9-6 on the road. And hey, a big series win for Oklahoma, but Ole Miss, this was a tough loss, Perry. I'll be honest with you. They're still tied right there with Oklahoma, Auburn, Bama, but I still am a little bit, yeah, Ole Miss is just that team, Perry, I can't put my finger on. I've talked about it every week.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be games where they look really good, like they should be in the top half of the conference, but man, when they're not clicking and the bats aren't hot, pitching staff ain't there, man, that they really struggle. And so I do wonder just overall where I would put Ole Miss just in hierarchy in terms of how talented this team is.
Big series victory for Oklahoma at home, getting it done. Still first year in the SEC. Let's move on to the next game. You just mentioned this team, Alabama, the number 18 team in the nation, on the road up in Nashville, Tennessee, this past weekend to take on the Commodores of Vanderbilt. How about Vanderbilt getting it done in game one? 12-2 the final in this one. Vanderbilt putting up 3 runs in both the bottom and the 6th inning, and then 6th and the 7th inning. And then how about 6 more runs in the bottom of the 8th to seal the deal? 16 hits in this ball game for the Commodores off of 0 errors. On the other side for the Crimson Tide, 5 hits, 0 errors. Commodores win game 1 soundly. Then we move over to game 2, Alabama. The Crimson Tide battled back 5-2 the final score. In this one, the Crimson Tide get it done off of 8 hits, 0 errors for Vanderbilt. 4 hits, 0 errors. Now we got a tied series, 1-1. Who's going to get it done in game 3? How about Vanderbilt squeaking it out and getting it done? 9-7 is the final score, putting up 3 runs in the bottom of the 8th and another 4 in the bottom of the 9th to seal the deal. Vanderbilt gets the job done off of 10 hits, 0 errors for the Crimson Tide, 8 hits, 1 error. How about the Commodores winning this series at home over Alabama in the top 25 matchup?
Man, huge win for Vandy. Their resume is so good. I understand that where they rank in the conference, Perry,
Mm-hmm.
but they're third in the RPI. What 4 ranked games in the final 7. They have a sweep over Georgia, who, if I'm not mistaken, is the new number 1 team in the country. I just man, this team has the resume to really be a problem, and they've won some massive series. And Perry, it's funny when we got here, coming out of conference, non-conference play, they lost that early series to Auburn, and they get swept by Arkansas. We were sitting here thinking like, okay, man, this isn't good. They lose that series at Norman, Oklahoma, but man, ever since that Georgia series, they've been rolling. They sweep Georgia. They did lose that series to Ole Miss, but they get a ranked series win over Alabama now. And this is a chance period where they can make a run. They have at Louisville, which is the top 25 team, at Knoxville in Tennessee, who's trending in the very wrong direction right now, right? So
Mhm.
that could be another ranked series win for them. And then they end the season with Kentucky, who they are just more talented than. This Vandy team could be one of the hotter teams in the country right now. Going into postseason play, this is a big win, and we always talk about winning the home series. They found a way to
Mhm.
get it done against a really good Alabama team. This Vandy team is in perfect position to not just host a regional, but really be one of playing their best baseball as we get to postseason play.
Yeah, interesting for Vanderbilt as we see them turning it up, and they have turned it up. We'll continue to watch as we get ready to start closing things out for the regular season and conference play and head towards that old conference tournament and see where they stand with that single game elimination this year is the format. Let's move on. The Florida Gators taking on South Carolina up in Columbia, South Carolina. Paul Maneri and the Gamecocks fall short in game one. 9-5 is the final score as Florida got it done off of 8 hits, 1 error, and then for the Gamecocks, 13 hits in this one, 1 error. Just couldn't get those guys around home plate. Florida gets game one. Then we move on to game two. This one I thought was the football score from the fall. 22-3 was the final score. Florida putting up 11 runs in the top of the ninth to seal the deal off of 15 hits, 3 errors. And for the Gamecocks, 9 hits, 2 errors. Florida gets it done and wins soundly in game two. Then we go to game three. Florida completes to sweep the Gators. 8-0 the final in this one as they called it in the seventh. 12 hits, 0 errors for the Gators. And on the other side for South Carolina, 4 hits, 2 errors. Tough weekend for South Carolina, but big weekend for Florida as once again, they're trending in the right direction, headed. And right now, playing some really good baseball when it matters the most. And even more so, I have seen different posts that people are asking for Paul Maneri to be gone after year one, Blue.
Yeah, year one's a little crazy. I mean,
It
I,
is.
I don't know what they expected him to do, right? I mean, this team, you're if you put South Carolina in a handful of other conferences, they might not win, Perry, but they'd be probably 500 in conference,
Yeah,
something like that.
no doubt.
I don't understand. I don't think some fans understand how competitive the SEC is this year and how good you have to be. Give Paul Maneri another year, 2 years to really build this roster up and get something done. But man, Florida's hot. 4 straight wins now. They're 11-13 in conference. They're kind of teetering into that next mid of the pack conversation. They're gonna get. Barry, I'll be honest. I think this is the team that's going to get into the postseason, and they're going to knock someone off they shouldn't.
Yep.
I really think that's how well they're playing right now. And it just shows that maybe those preseason polls did know a little bit of something. It just took a little while for us to gel, right? And this was a big road sweep. And I think it just shows how deep the SEC is because Florida's at the bottom half of the bottom quarter of the conference. I mean, they can go out here and get a sweep.
Gators started the season in conference play 0-6. They've been rolling since getting last week's victory at home in a series against Arkansas. This week they took care of business against South Carolina. We move on to a big game over in College Station. LSU takes on Texas A&M. Texas A&M was headed in the right direction. They got a series victory over the Razorbacks as well. They got cooled off last week in that series against Texas as the Longhorns were able to defeat their rivals, the Aggies. But then in this one, how about A&M and the Aggies getting it done 3-1 in game one against LSU? They come off the series victory over Tennessee last week. The Aggies got it done off of 6 hits, 0 errors on the other side for the Tigers of LSU. 8 hits, 1 error. 3-1 was the final on this one as the Aggies went up 1-0. Then we go up to game two. Close. 1 run decided, and it was the LSU Tigers who evened this series up at 1-1. They get the victory 2-1 over the Aggies, and this was 6 hits and 1 error for the Tigers on the other side for Texas A&M. 3 hits, 0 errors. And now we got a tied series. And I watched this one all the way to the end yesterday. How about Texas A&M getting it done with a big home run in the bottom of the 8th inning, and they win it 6-4 the final score. They get it done 9 hits, 0 errors on the other side for LSU, 7 hits, 1 error. Man, LSU just fell apart in that 8th inning, but nonetheless, man, how about Texas A&M at home at College Station, holding it down? Never say never. They didn't give up, and they ended up winning this series 2-1. How about A&M over the Tigers?
Massive, massive win for Texas A&M. But man, such a disappointing series loss for LSU. Th-
Yeah.
this is one you just couldn't. I still can't really wrap my head around just because this is a series LSU should have won, and we kind of talked about Texas A&M being good enough to potentially give them a run for their money. But man, if you're LSU, you came into the season with national title hopes. And even on the road, man, you have to find a way to win this series. And like you said, it's not like they got blown out or anything like that. It's just at the end of the day, man, they didn't capitalize on opportunities to close out some of these games, which has been a cost you series in the SEC. And you look ahead, they're going to have a really tough series next weekend at home against Arkansas. That's going to be their last test. They should sweep South Carolina. I'm just going to assume that's probably what's going to happen there to end the season. But let's just say they drop next week's series. You're talking about LSU potentially going from what right there and tied for third in the conference to you can find yourself middle of the pack, man, sixth, seventh in the SEC, depending on how some of the other series work out. So I really do think that the there's going to be some there needs to be kind of like a gut check moment for this LSU team, man, because they've lost some series they shouldn't have, and I think it's been their inability to win on the road. You look at the other top teams in the conference. Texas is 9-4 on the road. Arkansas 7-5. Georgia's 9-8. Tennessee's 8-4. Even Vandy's 8-7. LSU's the only team in the top six teams that has a losing record on the road. They have not been able to capitalize winning some of these road series, and it's cost them. As so, it's going to be very interesting to see if they can get this turned around moving forward.
Yeah, looking forward to see what the Tigers are going to do. I'll be at the game this weekend as Arkansas comes to Baton Rouge. Should be a great one with that atmosphere that LSU and those Tiger fans have over at Alex Box Stadium. Let's move on and look at Kentucky. They were on the road up in Starkville, Mississippi. Stark Vegas taking on Mississippi State. Mississippi State gets it done big. This was one of those when you looked at the score, it's like, really? 14-4 is the final score for the Bulldogs. They got it done off of 16 hits, 1 error in this ball game. 15 hits, 1 error. And on the other side for Kentucky, 6 hits, 0 errors. The Wildcats fall short. The Bulldogs get game 1. Then we move over to game 2, a little bit closer than game 1. 6-5 was the final score for Mississippi State as they got it done and took the 2-0 lead in this series. The Bulldogs with 9 hits, 0 errors for the Kentucky Wildcats. How about 5 hits and 3 errors? Then we move over to game 3. Can Mississippi State complete the sweep? And they do over Kentucky. 6-1 was the final in this one. 2 runs in the bottom of the third to add another 3 in the bottom of the 6th. Mississippi State holds on. 7 hits in this ball game, 0 errors. And on the other side for Kentucky, 6 hits, 2 errors. How about Mississippi State, Blue, getting a sweep over Kentucky? And Kentucky is one of those teams we've kind of been borderline like, I like them. They're like the Sour Patch Kids. You like them one week, then I don't like them the next week. This is one of those weeks I didn't like them.
Yeah, but this was a big one. And we kind of talked about that midweek playing a massive role in this. And you look at the trajectory of these two programs right now, they're tied with Texas A&M right now in the conference standings. Kentucky has now lost 4 in a row. Mississippi State's
Wow.
won 4 in a row. Two completely different directions. So, big win for Mississippi State, though, man. And we kind of talked about this Mississippi State team not being the Mississippi State team we're used to seeing, where they're a
Mm-hmm.
college World Series contender, right? And I still think it shows that this team's talented enough to maybe make some waves that they can get into the postseason. I don't know if that's in the future, but they have some chances to make some waves to here to end the season. So I'll be very curious to see if they can continue this momentum, man, because and for Kentucky, I just think they're trending in the wrong direction, Perry. This team is a team that I think is gonna possibly gonna have a really, really tough end to the season, and they're gonna have to figure something out quickly, or we could see this team just completely fall out of the race for any postseason play.
Yeah, I'm with you right there. They're hiding cold. You just never know what you're going to get out of them. But the fact that we're watching Mississippi State head in that direction, that makes them another team. If they can pull off a series here and there that you have to watch, all of these teams at this point, you're going to have to watch out for. SEC baseball tournament this year is going to be absolutely must-watch television because it's anybody's game at this point that you're going to have to bring in that single game elimination. And two teams who you're going to have to watch moving forward in this last game that we're going to talk about over the weekend. Number 10, Auburn taking on number 12, Tennessee, up in Knoxville, Tennessee. And in game one, the Auburn Tigers get it done 6-1. They put up 2 runs in the top of the first to add another here in the third, another in the eighth, another in the ninth, and in the sixth. 6-1 final score. The Auburn Tigers with 8 hits in this one, 0 errors on the other side for Tennessee. 6 hits, 0 errors. Kind of caught me off guard, not going to lie. Auburn going up to Tennessee and getting it done. And they got it done in game one. Then we move to game two. Tennessee comes back and gets the victory. 5-4 is the final in this one. Tennessee with 17 hits in this game off of 2 errors. And on the other side for Auburn, 8 hits, 0 error. Now, we got a tie series here, Blue. And then we were looking at who's going to win this series overall. For the masses, you're probably thinking Tennessee. They're at home. But in actuality, it was the Auburn Tigers who got it done. 8-1 was the final as they wrapped things up in the 7th inning. Auburn got it done, putting up 4 runs in the top of the 3rd to add another 3 in the top of the 5th and 1 more in the top of the 7th to seal the deal. The Tigers in this one, 10 hits, 0 errors. For Tennessee and the Vols, 4 hits, 0 errors. Not going to lie, Blue. Didn't see this one coming. Tennessee, and it was heated in this game. Some heated exchanges. There were words used, coaches, benches coming out. There was a lot going into this one. And I think most importantly, what you're starting to see now is the frustration from the Tennessee team. You're starting to see that they're headed in the wrong direction, losing that series against LSU, now losing the series against Auburn. Things aren't looking so great for a team just a few weeks ago we thought were damn near unbeatable.
I've been super, super impressed with Auburn this weekend, man. Because even in the game that they lost, Perry, they had a chance to win that game, and it was that weird delay, right? They were in extras and had to finish it on the next day. And it was just it was a very tense, I love the rivalry at the end of the day, and guys getting ejected and the patch, but man, it's been a rough patch for Tennessee, man. They are
Mm-hmm.
they are not playing very good baseball right now, and it's showing on everyone's face. And I think, I know everyone had their opinion on, ejections and passion. I love it because I really do think that's the coaching staff trying to get some of these Tennessee players back locked in, trying to get that emotion out of them, trying to get them refocused on the mission at hand. But this was a massive win for Auburn, man. I think it just shows, Perry, and what you're seeing for this Auburn team is they have a lot of ranked wins right now. And that's why they're so high up in the RPI. And really the only series that they got swept on and didn't compete well in was that Texas series on the road. And that was a tough
Mm-hmm.
one. But they have beaten almost everybody in the middle of the pack of the SEC right now. And I think this is a team that's going to be good enough to potentially make a run to Omaha if they get the right matchup in the postseason, Perry. Just because,
And Blue,
go ahead.
they've been playing well in their midweek games as
Yeah,
well.
and they're just so battle tested, and these are the type of teams that are dangerous because there's not going to be a game that's too big for Auburn because they've
Mm-hmm.
been tested through the SEC. They tested themselves in out of conference play, playing Georgia Tech and these other ranked teams. Like this is the team that's going to be scary. And the one thing that does concern me is they have not shown a great ability to win on the road, which is why I think this weekend was so big to get this road series because throughout the season they haven't played well on the road. But they're sitting there at 13-11, only 1 game back of Vandy, Tennessee, only 2 games back of Georgia, LSU. This Auburn team is someone that is getting hot at the right time, and I'm very curious to see if they're going to be able to close the schedule with some wins because you kind of look ahead, right? Just peeking ahead. Their next series is against South Carolina at home. You feel real good about 3-0 on that one, right? So you give them those 3, then you're at 16-11, 24-6. Then you get a road series against Ole Miss, which is a very winnable road series for them, and you get a midweek against Jacksonville State. This team could finish as one of the hottest teams in the SEC, man. Auburn's putting together at the right time.
Auburn putting it together at the right time. And let's look at the SEC standards as we talk about these teams. And now we're starting to get clarity. We're starting to see the jumbled up. Early on, this was kind of like you had these few teams that was the elite, then it seemed like it was everybody else, then it was the bottom. And how about who we thought was going to be at the bottom for a while was Texas A&M and Florida. They just kind of clawed their way out from the bottom, but who we know at the bottom for sure, no doubt about it. They're 0-24 in conference play. That's the Missouri Tigers. 0-24 so far. They're 13-34 overall on the season. Right above them, Palmetto in South Carolina, who's 5-19 in conference play, 26-23 overall on the season. Then here we go, Texas A&M, slowly but surely trying to claw their way up, and they're not too far off. They're 10-14 in conference play, 27-20 overall on the season. Right there along with them, Mississippi State, who's 10-14 in conference play, 29-19 overall on the season. And then Kentucky, those are the three teams all tied up at 10-14, 25-20 on the season overall for Kentucky. Now we go to, how about Florida? One game away from the rest of them, but still found themselves ahead of them. 11-13 in conference play. The Gators are 33-16 overall on the season. Now we're looking at the teams that are above 500 in conference play, barely with their head above the water. And let's start with Ole Miss. They're 13-11, 33-15 overall on the season. Alabama is 13-11 in conference play as well, 36-12 overall on the season. Two more teams at 13-11. Let's go with the Oklahoma Sooners, who got a weekend series victory. They're 32-14 overall on the season. And then Auburn, who you just finished talking about, all tied up with the rest of those three teams at 13-11 in conference play. They're 33-15 overall on the season. Now we got two teams who are tied at 14-10 in conference play. That's Vanderbilt, who's 34-14 overall. And then you look at Tennessee, the Volunteers, who are 37-11 overall. Both those teams tied up in conference play at 14-10. Here's two teams, and it seems we tend to get pairs a lot in this conference. Georgia and LSU. Georgia's found themselves back in the conversation. 15-9 so far in conference play. They're 39-11 overall on the season. LSU is 15-9, and they're 38-11 overall on the season. And now here we go to the top two teams in the conference. Arkansas Razorbacks still holding on to a lead over everybody else and being right there knocking on the door with Texas. They're 17-7 in conference play, 40-9. They're the first team to reach 40 in the conference victories overall on the season. And then at the top of the bunch, still losing their first series this past weekend, the Texas Longhorns, 19-5 in conference play. They're 38-8 overall. You talking about win streaks? Look at Georgia. Watch out. 6-game win streak headed into midweek right now. The Razorbacks on the 3-game win streak. The Florida Gators are on a 4-game win streak. And although Mississippi State is at near the bottom at 10-14, they are on a 4-game win streak. So you got some stuff going on. But for you looking at all these teams jumbled up, Blue, between 14-10, 13-11, and then that 10-14 range, man, it's still pretty much open out there.
Wide open, man. And like we talked about, unless you're Texas and Arkansas, you look from Georgia to even potentially down to Florida. You get on a losing streak here, man. You can go from third in the conference to like 10th. That's
Snap of a
that's
finger.
how tight it is, man. And it's even worse for teams like Alabama, Auburn, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, man. You can go from top half of the conference to like outside the top 12 in the conference, man. It's going to be so competitive. I'll say this, just kind of looking, because I know we always like to talk about power rankings. Right now, I still would have Texas at 1. I know what just happened this weekend, but I'm looking at the whole season, right? Not just one series. I would still have Arkansas at 2, Georgia at 3, Vandy at 4, Auburn at 5 right now, if we're doing power
You
rankings.
put LSU and Georgia out the way.
Yeah, well, no, I had Georgia in there,
Well,
but
you pushing LSU out the
yeah,
way.
LSU and Tennessee I pushed out of the way because those teams are not playing well right now. And they're gonna have to show me that they can turn it around, especially Tennessee, right? LSU can be argued, but Tennessee is not playing good baseball right now, and I think you saw that with Tony getting ejected this weekend, man. He's just trying to find a way to fire his team up, and so Tennessee's got a lot to figure out. But I'll say this, man, I know Vandy's sitting there tied for 5th. They might be the most dangerous team in the conference right now, man. That they can play with anybody, and they have it's a program that knows what it takes to win in the postseason, knows what it takes to win in the SEC tournament. They're going to be a very, very dangerous team moving forward, man. But the mid part of the conference is so dangerous, and you even mentioned it, the Florida, the Mississippi States, the Texas A&Ms. They might be at the bottom of the conference, but they could beat anybody on any given weekend, man, when they get hot. So just again shows the depth of this conference.
It does shows the depth. And then, you're looking at Vanderbilt, who you're saying is the hottest team. I'm looking at Auburn. I'm liking where Auburn stands right now. And then you're looking at the rest of these teams, man, and it's like I'm really starting to be high on Florida. I was not thinking about Florida 2 weeks ago, right? But just watching the Gators claw their way out of the bottom and now over Mississippi State and Kentucky. This is a team that started 0-6 in conference play, now 11-13. If they can get something done this weekend, you can look at them being at 500, and then with that extra series left before we get to tournament play, this team could go from 0-6 starting the conference to be above 500 in conference play by the time it's all said and done. I'm starting to look at Florida. I think that's one of those teams that do not ignore them. They are a team, especially getting that series victory over Arkansas, which was much needed, and handling business against South Carolina. Florida, to me, is a dangerous team to watch out for.
Very dangerous. Again, I said it earlier. I think they're a team that's going to catch someone in the postseason if they get there. Them and A&M, I really do
Yeah.
think could be terrifying come postseason play, especially for someone outside the SEC.
Looking at Tennessee and LSU, what's you saying they headed in the wrong direction? You're not liking what you see. Who seems for them out of those two teams that you think could get back on track first?
LSU. I I think LSU would be my pick just because Tennessee has just not played well. LSU's just made some like boneheaded mistakes, in my opinion. And you kind of look at what like the biggest thing for LSU, man, the bats just got cold. Like when you look at the overall standings, they rank second in terms of batting average this season. Perry, when you go to conference play, that falls all the way to seventh. So that's a huge drop off, right? And so I think that plays a part into it, but their pitching's there, in my opinion. The thing with Tennessee is, man, their pitching's trending in the wrong direction for me. And also
Mm-hmm.
too, that I just and I saw a lot of Tennessee fans this weekend complaining about this as I watched the Auburn series. They just don't like the effort that some of the players are giving, which I think led to Tony having the big blow up on the, umps and showing some passion. He's like, man, if I'm out here doing all this, man, I need you guys to reciprocate by giving this same passion on the field. And I think you even saw that at the end of the second game when they tagged the Auburn runner out at the plate, gave him a little shove, was talking, you know, at one point, man, if I'm Tony, I'm like, okay, maybe that's what we needed, right? Maybe we need a little bit of edge to us. Maybe we needed, something to fire us up. Well, man, they turn around and in the third game, there was none of that, right? It was like you got it all out after the game, winning the second game, and then we saw nothing moving forward. So I'm very, very curious to see what Tennessee does moving forward. But I think LSU, just in terms of talent, Perry, and the way they've lost, it has the best chance of turning this thing back around.
Let's look at some of the midweek games going on Tuesday. Indiana State is going on the road to take on Tennessee. What you think in that one?
I like Tennessee here.
They needed much needed victory if they can get on track. How about Vanderbilt going on the road, taking on Louisville out of the ACC? This should be a good matchup, man.
Yeah, I think that this is an interesting matchup, right? Because I'll say this, I do think Louisville's a really good team. I think they're 20th in the updated standings now. So this will be a really big test for Vandy, but I like Vandy here just because Perry, man, they're playing such good baseball right now, man. So I think Vandy finds a way to get it done on the road.
Should be a good one with that Louisville and Vanderbilt on Tuesday. How about South Florida going over to Gainesville to take on a red hot Florida Gators team? What you think about that?
I like Florida here. Give me Florida.
Here go a matchup that we've been waiting on. And you talked about this a few weeks ago that we knew this day was going to come. Alabama going on the road to take on Troy. This should be a really good midweek game. I think a lot of eyes should be on, Blue.
Yeah, very, very interested to see what happens here. I think this could be one that is upset alert potentially, but I'm still going to lean Bama here.
The crowd is going to be crazy in Troy for this one.
Yeah, that they should turn out for this one. God, I'm gonna say I'll go Troy here. I'm gonna switch it up on you last second. I'm gonna go
Oh,
Troy.
the SEC is going to fall to Troy. Hey, we've been hyping up Troy. We've been looking at them each and every week. this is an opportunity to really get on the radar for us because we've been looking at them from afar. You get a chance to get past Alabama, you got my
Yeah,
attention this week.
it's very rare we get a top 25 midweek matchup because Troy right now, according to D1 Baseball, they're 19th in the country. Bama's 23rd, so a Bama win might be an upset here.
The other way around. How about this? Another midweek game between these two teams. They met last week. This time, Kansas has to go on the road to Missouri. I know how you skip over Missouri, so should I
Kansas by as many as they want to score.
add? Lamar taking on Texas. What you got?
I like Texas here.
What do you think about this matchup? Texas A&M is going to be in the Houston area on Tuesday. So I know the fans are going to be out for this one as they're going to take on the Houston Cougars. What do you think about the Houston Cougars versus the Texas A&M Aggies in Houston, Texas? I'm sure the crowd is going to be huge for this one.
Yeah, I'm interested in this one just because Texas A&M has been a team that's trending in the right direction, right? But also, too, let's give credence. Like Houston has a losing record right now in conference, but they've won 5 games in a row here now, Perry. So they're also extremely hot. I'm a lean Texas A&M, but man, this could be an upset alert. Watch me, because Houston is really really hot right now.
Then we got the final one of the midweek is going to be Grambling from the SWAC coming on the road to Baton Rouge, taking on LSU. Do you see the Tigers stumbling in this one over their SWAC opponent, Grambling?
Nope. LSU big.
All right, now it's time to move on to the weekend series and look at some of these games of matchups. And here's the interesting matchup. We're going to start it off with Blue. Vanderbilt, who are you high on right now, taking on Tennessee, who you're not so high on right now. This is a good matchup for both of these programs, and this is a matchup worth watching.
Is this series in Knoxville or
It is in
oh
Knoxville.
this is a must-win series for Tennessee, man.
Yeah, they can't lose three straight
No,
series.
and especially not at home. Especially not at home. Oh God, man. It's like part of me wants to say Tennessee just because I just don't want them to um I just like, losing 3 series is tough. I'm gonna say
Follow
this.
your heart, Blue.
I'm
Follow your
gonna go
heart.
Vandy 2-1. I don't think Tennessee gets swept at home, but I do think Vandy is hot enough to pull out the road series win.
Man, gonna have me looking at Tennessee sideways if they lose this series. I'm gonna roll Tennessee in this one. I think at some point this week they're gonna have to get fired back up. I think this is a worthy opponent to fire them back up. Vanderbilt. This should be an interesting matchup. As much as I want to go Vanderbilt, I'm gonna go Tennessee. I think they have to get it done. I just cannot see them losing 3 straight series in this conference, considering that they are a really good team, but I can't knock Vanderbilt. They are a really good team as well. But I'm gonna go Tennessee in this one. Here's one in Lexington, Kentucky. How about Oklahoma on the road taking on the Kentucky Wildcats?
I'm gonna go another road series win here. I'm gonna go Oklahoma 2-1.
2-1 Oklahoma. I'm going home. I guess today, opposite day. I'm going Kentucky in this one. I still somewhat kind of like Kentucky Blue. I don't know why. And the fact I said Kentucky and said blue after the fact, that might be what it is. Maybe I like blue, the color, and Kentucky is blue. I'm rolling with Kentucky in this one. Nonetheless, I still think they are one of the teams that can still get hot at any given time and beat anybody in this league. And Oklahoma is so up and down, right? That's the thing about them. They're so up and down. Now, when you got them at home, I'll roll with them. But on the road, having to go to Lexington, their first trip since joining the conference, I'm going to roll Kentucky in this one. I think Kentucky gets it done and win this series. So here's another one. Georgia on the road going to Tuscaloosa taking on the Alabama Crimson Tide. What are you liking this one?
Oh man, this was gonna be a tough one. I already picked Bama to lose the midweek, right? Against Troy. Uh
So do they shake back? I mean, but Troy is a formidable
yeah,
opponent, a top 25 ranked team.
yeah, Troy's a formidable opponent. Georgia, has been it's kind of trending upwards right now a little bit. So I'm gonna go Georgia. They've won 6 in a row. I'm gonna go Georgia 2-1. Man, that's a lot of road victories though.
You all were about the road teams this week. Last week, you were almost all about the home team. I'm going to roll with you on this one. I agree with you. I'm going to go Georgia 2-1 in this one. I think the Bulldogs are trending in the right direction. This is a good series for them to get on the road and then kind of like say, hey, look, we can get it done because it's been kind of tough for them on the road. So I'm with you on that one. South Carolina and Paul Maneri be on the road at Auburn this weekend. What do you see with the Tigers and the
I
Gamecocks?
think the Tigers are too hot. Give me the Tigers 3-0 over South Carolina.
I'm with you, Tigers, all the way in that one. War Eagle. Missouri on the road at College Station against Texas A&M. Can Missouri finally break the losing streak in conference and pull out one in this one?
Nope. I'm going to go A&M 3-0 here.
Be on the lookout. Now that's what we watching Missouri games for. Who's gonna be the team to give it up? Can it be Texas A&M this weekend? We'll watch and see because for a second it looked like Georgia was finna give it up.
A&M can't afford.
But I watch.
A&M can't afford to give up a game. A&M needs to sweep here.
They need the sweep here. This is the one for the boot. Arkansas and LSU, the Razorbacks on the road, taking on the Tigers in Baton Rouge. Of course, the Razorbacks coming off that huge sweep over the number one team in the nation, the Texas Longhorns, two rivals there as well. LSU coming off a loss on the road against Texas A&M. They're back home. Alex Box Stadium is going to be rocking this weekend with a Arkansas Razorback team coming in. These are rivals. They know each other well. What do you think about Van Horn taking on Johnson?
Oh, man.
See, when I hear you doing all that right there, boy, that just let me know how tough the SEC is.
Man, I'm telling you, because I mean, let's just be honest here, man. Any given weekend, right?
I know what you want to do. While you said that, you low key want to go with the road team in this one, don't you?
A little bit, cause I mean, especially just because of how good they looked this past weekend, right? Especially, but I just don't see. I don't see LSU losing at home right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think LSU 2-1 over Arkansas.
Well, Lee Corso say, not so fast, my friend. I'm going to go the Razorbacks in this one, 2-1. I think the Razorbacks may drop game one and then find a way to get game 2 and 3. I'm going to go Razorbacks. And for me, this is a must-win series for the Razorbacks. You cannot lose 3 straight series, then show me what you did against Texas and flex, and then come back and fall flat again. At this point, you have that momentum coming out of that Texas series. That momentum has to then push, and then you really make me a believer saying you can go on the road in Baton Rouge and walk out of there with a series win over LSU. This has to be one for Arkansas if they want to continue heading in the right direction. I'm going to go Arkansas 2-1 over LSU in this series. Here's a matchup that I like. Florida having to go to Austin to take on the Longhorns of Texas. It is tough to beat Texas in Austin, Texas. But Florida is a team trending in the right direction. Are they trending enough to go on the road and pull this series out over the Longhorns, who are coming off a loss against the Razorbacks on the road last
Not
week?
so fast. I'm gonna go Texas 3-0 here. I think they bounce back with a vengeance. I think last week was an eye opener. They're gonna take out all the frustration on the Gators.
Yeah, Texas is a tough place, man. I watched and saw a game. They even brought the band out to the baseball game and had them playing in left field. So down along the third base line. So yeah, this is gonna be a tough place. Let's go Texas in this one. They were embarrassed this past week, and I don't see them letting their fans down at home. Here we go. Egg Bowl on the diamond, if they want to call it that. Ole Miss going up to Starkville, taking on Mississippi State. What do you see between these two teams of Mississippi? The Rebels taking on the Bulldogs.
Extremely interesting series and a must win for both teams.
Mm-hmm.
A must win.
And Mississippi State is trending in the right direction.
Yes, they are. And on top of that, too, Ole Miss is trending on falling out of the top 25. 24th in the updated top 25. So this is a must win for both teams. Oh God, this is a tough one. I'll be honest with you, man. I'm gonna go Mississippi State 2-1.
Ooh. Something in me want to roll with the Rebels, but I'm gonna go with you on this one. Let's go Mississippi State at home in Starkville. That is a tough place. They bring out them cowbells. Oh man, it gets loud, and them cowbells gonna be ringing as loud as they can make them this weekend with this rivalry matchup. I'm gonna go Mississippi State, unless Ole Miss can silence them and say put those cowbells up. Mississippi State in this one. So that's the games we have for the weekend series. Which one of those games is the must watch for you?
Ooh, man, in the SEC, all of them. But I'll say I'm very, very interested in LSU Arkansas. That's going to be probably a must-watch series. And I'll say I'm also very curious about Georgia Bama just because of the how up and down Bama's been. Can they bounce back? And then I just want to see how hot Florida really is, man. Because if they can go to Austin and get a series win, man, that's going to be so good. But I think this weekend's headlined by Arkansas LSU for sure.
Arkansas LSU. I'll be at that game at the series this weekend. And then I'm gonna be paying attention to Vanderbilt, Tennessee. I think that's gonna get heated. It's just something about that. Just feel like that series is gonna be heated. Tennessee is a team that is frustrated. Vanderbilt is a team that can come in and kind of flex a little bit. Like, hey, we headed in the right direction. I don't know about y'all. I think that game is gonna be heated between those two teams. But I'll be at Alex Box this weekend watching the LSU and Arkansas series. Looking forward to that, and looking forward to great weekend of SEC baseball coming up. Blue, as always, man, give us the top 25 this week. What are we looking like, and what changes do we have?
Well, we got to welcome USC to the top 25 at 25. Ole
The
Miss, yeah,
Trojans.
Ole Miss down at 24, Bama at 23, Arizona 22, Southern Miss still hanging around at 21, Louisville, who we talked about earlier, at 20, Troy 19, like we talked about, UCLA at 18, Oklahoma, another SEC team there at 17, NC State, ACC is in here heavy at 16, Tennessee at 15, Coastal Carolina and UC Irvine at 13 and 14. West Virginia at 12, man. Perry, if I don't know if people remember, I talked about them about 2 weeks ago about how hot they were, man. West Virginia has caught my attention a few weeks ago, and they have continued to roll here. And then here comes the ACC SEC Invitational, Vandy at 11, Oregon State at 10, Clemson at 9, Auburn at 8, Arkansas at 7, Georgia at 6, Oregon at 5, UNC at 4, LSU at 3, Florida State at 2, and Texas remains number 1.
That's interesting. As we look at this, man, and we start to think about the possibility of hosting regionals, it seems like the regionals is going to be straight SEC, ACC, maybe with the exception of maybe Coastal Carolina and UC Irvine and
Oregon,
possibly maybe a
yeah,
UCLA.
like Oregon and Oregon State are probably the two that are going to throw a wrench into things, and maybe you'll have a UC Irvine or a West Virginia, but man, it's going to be a lot of SEC, ACC teams, and I think when you start looking at where the super regionals are going to be, there's going to be a whole lot of SEC, ACC teams hosting the supers.
Looking at them in this top 25, right? USC is joining the fold. Now they're on my radar and paying attention of what that's going to look like with them. UC Irvine has a victory over UCLA and Oregon State so far this year. Does UC Irvine seem to be, although, they're not the big name brand, they seem to be maybe that dark horse to watch out for because they seem like maybe they are capable of beating anybody.
Yeah, they've done a good job backing up in conference play, man. 20-4 in conference play.
Mm.
I mean, they have a win up for Nebraska. That was a pretty good win. They got a sweep over UC Santa Barbara, which was a top 25 team. They had that win over USC. They have a win over Oregon State. They have a win over another win over UCLA. So a very interesting. It's funny enough, they're 20-4 in conference play. Two of their 4 losses came this weekend as they lost their first series in conference play to UC San Diego. So they're going to be an interesting team to watch, man. It's just the strength of schedule is not really there, so it's going to be very curious to see how if they got to go up against the Vandies and the Auburns and the Georgias, the Arkansas, like can they hold up in a series against one of those teams?
What's your thoughts on Coastal Carolina, who is sitting right there? The Chanticleers seem like a team, as we know, they've won a national title before within this decade, and there they are knocking at the door saying, look, we're back, and we're looking to upset some things this year and get our way to Omaha.
Hey, another team, 20-4 in conference. They got wins over Kansas State. They lost a game to Alabama. They got a win over Ohio State. They got a big win over NC State, top 25 team. They swept Rutgers. They lost to UNC, who's a top 5 team, by 1 run in
Mm,
extras. So,
mm.
man, they've shown that they can be there, man. They also beat Clemson on the road.
is tough.
8-2. So they got some signature wins here, man, and they've been rolling in conference play. That's actually a matchup I think is a must watch tomorrow night. Clemson heads to Conway, man. The Chanticleers are hosting the Tigers. That'll be a huge top 15 matchup, and so I think they should run through the Sun Belt. I'll say this: I'm a little bit more confident in Coastal Carolina making a run than I am UC Irvine right now.
And then don't forget about Troy is right there in the Sun Belt with Coastal Carolina as well.
Yeah, they are. I think Coastal's probably a little bit more battle tested in my opinion. But Troy, man, has been balling as well. 16-8 in conference, 34 and 14 overall. They had a 1 point loss to Auburn. They beat Mississippi State on the road earlier this year. They only lost to Bama on the road by 2. So that they've had some games. They lost 2-1 to Coastal Carolina earlier this year at home. So very interesting schedule for them. It's just I I really do think Coastal Carolina is the best team in this conference. But Troy's got a chance to show me, right? They host Alabama this upcoming week, and they also end the season against Southern Miss, another top 25 team. How about the Sun Belt, man? Three teams in the top 25?
Southern Miss was going to be the next team that I was going to talk about because, of course, we've been looking at these teams throughout the season saying, man, if they stay hot, these are the teams that you have to watch out for. We talked about Coastal Carolina. We talked about Troy. Then here, boom, Southern Miss is right there still in the mix.
Yeah, 18-6 in conference, 35-13 overall. That they shut out Mississippi State earlier this year. They lost a tough one on the road to Ole Miss. They got some solid wins. They also beat Ole Miss in a neutral site earlier this year in Pearl. That they were competitive against Alabama in that out of conference game. So that they've shown the ability to be able to play with the best of them. And that road matchup against Troy to end the year is going to be a really big one, man, in terms of seeding and other things like that.
And how about USC? Let's welcome them to the top 25. What does that body of work for the Trojans look like to finally crack through that top 25 at the right time of the year?
Yeah, look, man, they've won 2 in a row now. They're 16-8 in conference, 32-15 overall. They got that win over UC Irvine, which we talked about just a second ago. That they also got a win over Vandy, too, in out of conference play. And they got swept by Oregon, but Oregon, man, is a really elite team. So, and that was way earlier in the season. And they got some wins on here. The Big Ten, though, isn't as deep as probably the conference would probably like, but they got games against UC Santa Barbara this past weekend. They got a big series win over UCLA, which was a top 25 team. I don't think they face another ranked team this year until we get to like the conference tournament, but I'll be very curious to see if USC can build on this momentum at all.
Yeah, me too. I'll be curious to see how long can they stay top 25 eligible, as they say. And then as we get ready to close things out, we only got 2 more series left in the regular season. We have this upcoming weekend and then the weekend after, and we'll be looking at conference tournaments starting up all over the place. And then it'll get even more interesting because we'll start to weed out a lot of teams and we'll start to see what teams in the best position to make a run and who's going to host regionals and the possibility of going over and hosting a super region. And most importantly, my eyes are going to be on the SEC baseball tournament this year because I love the new format.
So
Bring all the teams in, give everybody an opportunity. One game, one loss, you go home. That way you don't stretch your teams out thin throughout the tournament, knowing you got to get ready for the postseason, the NCAA postseason. But what's your thoughts? Are you a fan, like I am, of the one game and you're done elimination for the SEC tournament, or did you like the former
I
format that
love it.
they had? Yeah.
Look, give me more chaos. So I don't mind it at all. I will say this, man. Looking at the projected host seeds right now, the SEC teams that are projected to host, Texas is projected to be the number 1 overall seed. Arkansas at 2, LSU at 4, Vandy at 6, Georgia at 7, Auburn at 9, Tennessee at 12, Alabama 13.
Mm.
So those are the projected host seeds right now. And in terms of bracket projections, Kentucky is projected to be one of the last 4 in right now. So you're talking about, and you're looking right now in the Austin regional, you would have Texas, they would have UT Rio Grande Valley, Arizona, New Mexico. Oklahoma would be the 2 seed in the Morgantown Regional with West Virginia. Florida would be the 2 seed in the Clemson Regional. Talk about a terrifying 2 seed. If you're
Whoa.
Clemson, Auburn would have Dallas Baptist in there, Duke and Columbia in their regional. LSU would be hosting NC State, Kansas, Long Island. A tough regional there for LSU with NC State, who's a pretty good team. Alabama would be hosting Miami, Kansas State, Holy Cross. Kentucky would be the 3 seed in the Chapel Hill Regional with North Carolina. And then Tennessee would have Louisville, Cincinnati, Austin P. Louisville, a really tough 2 seed in that one. Vandy would host a really good Georgia Tech team, East Tennessee
Mhm.
State, and SIU Edwardsville. Ole Miss,
East Tennessee State is a really good program
we
as
saw them
well.
with the big win over Tennessee in the midweek earlier this year. Ole Miss, the 2 seed in the Conway Regional with Coastal Carolina right now projected. Georgia would have Wake Forest, Troy, and Ball State. So 2 really good teams in the Athens Regional. And then looking ahead here, Mississippi State, the 3 seed in the Tallahassee Regional with Southern Miss and Florida State, and Bethune-Cookman out of the
Ooh.
SWAC. And then Texas A&M, the 3 seed in the TCU regional with USC and Missouri State. Talk about
Ooh.
if you're TCU and you get USC, who's trending upwards, Texas A&M, who's really good, and then Arkansas would have UTSA, Xavier Oral Roberts, and that would be it for the SEC projections right now.
Arkansas sound like they might have an easy little
And
path over there.
they might as well just wrap that one up now. Let them get on the field and wrap that because I don't see anyone in that regional giving Arkansas any run for their money.
Ooh, man, you just gave me some good info, man. I'm liking. Let me ask you this for the gamblers out there, the online gamblers. What do you think the odds would be when we look at the SEC tournament for Missouri to win it all?
Uh, let's see. I'm gonna try to find them. I don't know if they've been released yet, but I would say it has to be insane, right?
I want to put maybe like a little $20 bet down, and let's see how far we can go. If Missouri gets hot in the SEC tournament and
So,
finds a way to get through,
so just for perspective, they have odds for the national championship for Missouri at plus 70,000.
Jesus Christ.
So I can only imagine what it would be to win the SEC tournament.
I'm looking at that one. That might be one of those, what's it called, the lottery picks. I might just throw something on that just because how
I,
crazy things
I
can
will
be.
say it's interesting, man, because looking at College World Series odds, Texas A&M has the 5th highest odds to win the College World
Mm.
Series right now. So not a great bet, but their odds are higher than Vandy, than Clemson, than Texas, Georgia Tech, Auburn. So very interesting, man. Arkansas currently has the best odds at plus 400, followed by Tennessee at plus 600, LSU at plus 700.
If you're looking at it right now, before we get ready to get out of here, Blue, and you're looking at the tournament and you take the teams as they are currently, and we insert them into the tournament, 1-game elimination. Right now, who would be your favorite as of this moment to win the SEC tournament in a single game elimination?
I'm still going to lean Texas right now. I think
Okay.
they've been the most consistent team. And plus, you take away that home field advantage from everybody. I think they are right now the most talented team, and I think they're going to show it this weekend. But I'm telling you, man, don't sleep on Vandy. Vandy and Arkansas in any given moment. Those would be my top 3, but I would lean Texas right now just because of the consistency this year.
Would you say Auburn would be knocking at that door?
Yes, Auburn would be right there, about 5-4 or so. I think Auburn, it'll be big if they get the sweep over South Carolina. And I do want to see how they end the season again on the road against Ole Miss, because that's a series where we've seen Ole Miss play really well against good teams at times. And so if
Mhm.
Auburn could find a way to get that road series against Ole Miss, I'll feel even more bullish about their chances in the postseason.
Looking at those lower tier teams, who would you say has the best opportunity to probably, if they could, pull it off in the tournament and win it all?
Florida, Texas A&M.
Yeah,
And I would lean Florida there. I think Florida can get hot and really make some waves.
yeah. And they showed that in that Arkansas series, getting the victory. Texas A&M, I mean, they beat Arkansas as well. And looking at both those teams who started 0-6 in SEC play and now fighting their way back, I mean, Texas A&M preseason number one. Can let's not forget and act like they don't have the talent, and that talent can very well wake up at any given moment. But I think we had a reality check when they took on Texas, right? It was kind of like, all right, but it wasn't bad. You know, they still were competitive, but it was still a reality check. Like, if we sized them up, Texas had got the best of them. But even looking at Arkansas being one of the better teams and still the favorite out of the conference to go and win it all in Omaha, they were a team that lost 3 straight series with Georgia, Florida, and Texas A&M, and then flexed and showed, hey, don't bury us yet by getting a victory in the series victory over Texas. So, man, it is crazy where this thing can go in any different place. And as we talked about, Florida and Texas A&M, either one of them can ultimately go on and win this whole thing.
Yeah, I do wonder if our perception of Texas A&M is skewed at all. Because Perry, would we be saying it's a disappointment or that or anything if they weren't preseason number one? Maybe what if they were just like 25th?
Well, you can't. They hyped us up. You know, when you
But
make somebody number one, you hype me up on them. I'm like, all right,
I'm with you. I just wonder. I just wonder if people jumped the gun there.
maybe so. If they weren't preseason number one, I don't think, even with what they doing right now, we'll give much credit to it. It'd be like, well, you know, there they go teetering around about where everybody thought they'd be about, you know, middle of the bunch, halfway nationally. But the expectation was too high. You put them at preseason number one, and we're looking at them starting 0-6 in conference play and saying, well, what the hell is happening here? So that preseason number one comes with
Oh, it
something
does.
now, all right? And it comes with a lot of expectations.
I think the voters set them up, though. I think the voters set them up.
It was an old setup,
Yeah,
huh?
hey, those Tennessee fans campaign behind the scenes or something like that. I mean, but also too, I think we all knew Texas was going to be good. I don't think we thought Texas would be this good, and
I
and,
didn't.
and we
I didn't.
and we all thought Arkansas would be good, but Arkansas always finds a way to Arkansas it up, and they haven't.
Arkansas always finds a way to Arkansas it up. That should be on a shirt somewhere, Blue. You got to
I'm
trademark that.
telling you, man.
That is one of the quotes of the century.
But I'll say this: they haven't done it yet, right? They've been good. And then also too, Vandy's gotten hot. Auburn's exceeded expectations. So I just think it just speaks to the depth of the SEC, man. I think that's what skewed what we expected from Texas A&M here.
And I'll say this. The reason why I will feel a lot more confident moving forward, especially talking national title with Texas, when Texas got in those series that you expected them to win, they won them. You can expect a tough series when you're matching up with the second best team behind you in conference with Arkansas. Arkansas for me shows laps, especially when it's the series that you expect them to win. Those laps that Arkansas has gives me nightmares when you look at down the road when you're talking about a regional, a super regional, and then get into Omaha. It's those laps within itself shows me that if they don't bring it, that we are the best mentality, that they'll get beat by anybody at any given moment. And that's the difference why when I look at Texas, I just have a lot more confidence at looking at them and seeing them play than I do with Arkansas because of the laps that the Razorbacks do have at times.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's the inconsistency for Arkansas that scares me.
Mm-hmm. And you never know when it's going to show its ugly head.
That's the thing. You just, I still think though, if Arkansas can just stay locked in and stay focused, like when they're locked in, they are undoubtedly a national title contender. Like they're that
Yeah.
talented, and it just almost, I don't know, because I mean, sports are sports at the end of the day, but like me and you cover everything. There's just those storylines in sports that like you have to have the build up right before you get to the
Mm-hmm.
climax of the story. It feels like we're at that point with Arkansas. Like if it's not this year, period, then when's it going to be? And in my head, I can still picture Arkansas rushing the mound because they finally broke through, right? Like that's what it feels like, and I'm worried because it just almost feels like I'm setting them up for disappointment again.
As an Arkansas fan, disappointment doesn't come like it's rare. That is a It is a normal thing for Arkansas Razorback fans. I can tell you, disappointment comes in all shapes, forms, and fashion, and when you least expect it. Even with the game on the line, and all you got to do is catch a pop fly to win your first national title. In some type of way, you find a way to miss that one. Razorback fans know what I'm talking about against Oregon State. All right, so just keep your fingers crossed, Razorback fans. That's all I got. And have the drinks ready to take your shots just in case, okay?
Yeah, they might win
We've been here before.
maybe they could just focus on winning the shot battle at that bar in Omaha.
That's it. I'll take that if that's what it comes down to, Blue. I will take that.
LSU ran away with it though, so they gotta keep up with LSU fans. Because if LSU's there, no one stands a chance.
Let me tell you about Louisiana, man. Know how to knock some drinks
That's a
down, man. Know
fact.
how to take it back.
That is a fact, and it'll be listen, I mean, it'll be a SEC heavy field this year, and I'll say this: I think LSU, Tennessee, Auburn, Alabama, like some of those teams, if they make it there, the problem is I just don't think any of them have the mindset of an LSU fan, man. I'm from Mobile and I've been around New Orleans. I've been around Baton Rouge. It's different in Louisiana. So I don't think anyone has a chance. We need LSU to get knocked out for a new champion to emerge.
Walk-Ons is right there across the street from Alex Box Stadium. It's normally my watering hole to go hang out before the game. I always ask because that place is packed to the seams, just busting out the seams. And I said, man, I wonder how much this place is making today because the alcohol sales are crazy. The beer sales are crazy. So definitely LSU fans know how to what they say, come to party.
Yeah.
So if they make it to Omaha, nobody stands a chance because they're coming up there ready to party for those shots and to say they won it all. So Blue, as we get ready to end today, man, let everybody know where they can keep up with you and find you, man.
Yeah, man. Find me at the Blue Bloods on all podcast streaming platforms and YouTube. Also here Monday mornings, man, if I got Perry White on the R Sports talking SEC baseball and FCS Football Central on si.com/college /FCS.
And I'm going to get you this weekend on the radio show, man, if you're available. I want to talk about that transfer portal on the FCS level because I've seen some things that have taken place. So I want to have that conversation if you're available this weekend, man, to come on to the show, man, and let's talk about what it's looking like in the ever-changing landscape of rosters now that we're heading into the offseason. And for me, everybody, I'm Perry White. You can keep up with me on the Yard Network, which you're watching on right now. We're on Facebook. You can hit that like and follow button. You can also subscribe to the On the Yard Network YouTube channel and follow us on X as well as Instagram. Blue and I do this every Monday at 10 a.m. Sometimes we'll sneak in the show on a Sunday if things line up, if the stars line up right. And then as well, you can keep up with me, the Jaguar Journal on 107.3 FM in Baton Rouge around the capital city area every Saturday morning, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. And if you don't get a chance to catch it live and you're not in the Baton Rouge capital city area, you can keep up with the Jaguar Journal and listen to any of the past episodes and segment on the Jaguar Journal's YouTube channel. And you can follow the Jaguar Journal on Jaguar Journal on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, X, Facebook, as well as Instagram on all of those, man. And then hopefully I'll be able to get my man Zach on. If you want to hear some football, y'all got to hear us talk our football talk when we do that as well. So for everybody that's out there, man, as always, for myself and Zach, man, we appreciate you guys and the support. I keep seeing the views. Listen, y'all tuning in, y'all paying attention, y'all supporting. So from us too, man, we appreciate you guys. We love you. It costs nothing to watch. It costs nothing to share. It costs nothing to hit the subscribe button. So as long as you guys keep doing that, man, we are appreciative and thankful. And happy Cinco de Mayo for everybody out there. I know the tequilas and the margaritas about to flow plentiful today. So, hey, what they say, drink responsibly today and enjoy yourself. So we'll catch you guys next week, all right?